gained independence in 1965, the Gambia was one of the most peaceful and democratic countries in Africa. But from the ravages of slavery and colonialism, Gambians are about to experience more. With a young civil service, budding economy and poor population, a devastating history chapter is to be written in the summer of 1981. Conflict rears its ugly head, chasing away the long-cherished post-independence peace of the country. Kukoi Sanyang is prepared to oust the democratically elected government of Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara. But friendship with world democracies pays off for the rescue of a country which finds itself helpless in the hands of those who call themselves the Supreme National Revolutionary Council. Kukoi Sanyang leads this movement.
I was half awake when I heard someone screaming on the radio, because I always sleep with the radio on. And it kept on going for a while. Then I said, well, this is unusual to have a drama being played at this time of the day in the morning. And then I got up and really realized that there was someone shouting those things on the radio actually at that very moment at the Radio Gambia, mile 7.
However, this event comes after red security signals to which the Jawara regime allegedly turns a blind eye. We are now in the 1980s. The clouds are forming, giving way to the Kukoi left-wing insurgency, having an easy ride against the field force of the country. The establishment of Movement for Justice in Africa, MOJA, by Liberian Togbana Tipote, is reported to have inspired revolutionary activities among the youth in Liberia, Ghana and the Gambia. In Gambia, one can see graffiti on the walls of the capital city and provincial towns calling for violent means of changing government. By fighting, shall we have a change is among the writings on walls. Pictures of arms and ammunition are also reportedly printed by Moja. Literally, the government failed to see the writing on the wall.
The 1981 coup d'etat was in the woodwork long before 30th July. Everybody saw it coming. That is why, as a historian, I believe one explanation why it happened was just the PP government had quite a reckless approach to security.
The Gambia Socialist Revolutionary Party is subsequently born. The party is led by Dr. Jibril George, who, in an interview with Britain's The Sun newspaper on July 29, 1980, had expressed the need to overthrow the Jawara administration. The Movement for Justice in Africa's Gambia's chapter and the Socialist Revolution Party gave rise to radical ideologies for change among Gambian youth. As their revolutionary fervor gains momentum, Jawara's boat, Mansa Kilaba, and his yacht, Barajali, are burnt.
Things were happening, to tell anybody that, a cataclysm might be in the offing. Well, I mean, a huge eruption of anti-government, violence. Because to add to Moja, you also had other revolutionary groups in Banjul and Serekunda.
On the 27th October 1980, Commander Eko Mahoney, the deputy commander of the Gambia Field Force, a paramilitary wing of the police force, was shot dead by Mustafa Danso, a constable in the same force. This incident is believed to be one of the catalysts of the events that were to unfold in the summer of 1981. Such deadly and destructive activities, coupled with telephone threats to senior government ministers, leave the government with no option but to ban the underground movements by decree. As a consequence, they were never registered under Gambian law.
I wouldn't really say all those incidents disconnected, in my view, prepared my mind for what happened in 1981. In fact, I think what was attempted in 1981 by its sheer recklessness.
The Gambia's Field Force, a paramilitary wing of the police, suffers from disaffection among its personnel. The force is not the best place to be for many young people, even though unemployment is high in the youth population. An armed rebellion seems imminent. This wouldn't be a military-led rebellion as was the case in many African countries, but a civilian uprising whose appetite for power could not be satisfied through the ballot but the bullet.
It was a reckless action by a group misguided youths who were manipulated by Kukoi, who was motivated by nothing more than hunger for power, compounded by the fact that he had very little education and no culture of respect for the Gambian people and their will, because the wishes of the Gambian people had been expressed. So by trying to subvert that, overthrow that government, he was showing disrespect above all to the Gambian people.
Still in the 1980s, the youth of the country accused the Jawara administration of corruption and nepotism. Their efforts for change through the ballot continue proving fruitless. Jawara keeps sweeping the polls with landslide after landslide.
We also had, incipient economic malaise, youth unemployment. And it was at this time, 78, 79, that the first instances of corruption were being reported in the Gambian press.
It is in the lead up to this time that a man born to a Jola Roman Catholic family of farmers in 1952 in Fonyi, at the age of 24, finds his way into Gambian politics. After his heavy defeat in the 1977 parliamentary elections under the banner of the National Congress Party, he appears to throw in the towel, searching for another means of rising to power. The Marxist-oriented young man therefore visits Guinea-Conakry, Freetown, the Soviet Union, Sweden and Libya for preparations. He is never seen again after he left in the early part of 1978 till D-Day in 1981. But how prepared is he really to break into an already established democratic power of Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara? His journeys to the Soviet Union, Libya and other communist socialist countries could be interpreted as a way of preparing in both ideological and military capacities. He is believed to have received the backing of countries which subscribe to Marxist political ideology. Trial evidence could later show that two of Kukoi's men, Pap Seka and Usman Bojang, indicate that Kukoi went to Guinea-Bissau to secure arms.
There was also a sub-regional context to Kukoi's preparation, because in November 1980, Nuvera made a coup d'etat in Guinea-Bissau, and he also had some socialist, Marxist, sing-song, revolutionary. Until
the time of the coup, Kukoi lives in Bakau, and his return would only be publicly noticed when the coup he is hatching erupts. Talending is reportedly the safe haven for him, hence it is the place one of his brothers and his friends live. So at the night before the coup, they gather at Talending, have their meals and green tea, locally called attaya, while the clock is ticking to their already planned mission. 9 of the conspirators are civilians, while 3 are field force members. These radical elements could bank on the prevailing disaffection and ethnic division in the Gambia's field force.
They infiltrated, like I said, there was disaffection. There was disaffection within the field force. Yeah, because the killing of, Commander Mahoney, I really don't want to, go into the ethnic dimension of this, So maybe we just, say it like that.
At 2:00 a.m. on the morning of the 30th of July, Kukoi and his men are ready to set off. They march about 5 miles to the Bakau depot. This rebel group wouldn't fire a shot at the spot, as dozens of disaffected, disgruntled and demoralized field force members surrendered and assisted in breaking into the barracks armory.
They had access to the armory, took the rifles, the ammunition, they armed themselves, and now invited other field force members to join them. And they had dozens.
In less than 3 hours, the Supreme National Revolutionary Council is in control with support from dozens of field force members. The Yundum Airport, barracks and Gambia are now in the hands of the radical rebel group, while President Jawara is attending the royal wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana. Some government ministers and Jawara's senior wife, Lady Chilal, and 8 of his children are kidnapped by the rebels. Gambians get to hear a pre-recorded audio of the council. Kukoi's voice hits the airwaves of Radio Gambia in the early morning of Thursday, 30th July 1981. The revolutionaries announced a takeover and expressed their intention to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat. Tragedy has descended on the Gambia.
Long live the revolution. Long live the heroic comrades in the field force raised to the ranks of a People's Liberation Army. Long live the struggle. Death to neocolonialism, racism and fascism in the Gambia. Death to capitalism and world imperialism. Down with the Jawara administration, the public enemy. Victories to the Gambian revolutionary struggle. Victories to the oppressed people of the Gambia. Honor to the people. Glory to the people. Comrades in the struggle, fellow Gambians, rally behind the Supreme Council of the Revolution, SCR, with the chairman, Kukoi Samba Sanyang.
Among their first victim is Kikala Balde. He is the assistant commander of the police. Balde is gunned down by the rebels. The Central Police Station in Banjul turns out to be the safest hideout for the Inspector General of Police and many senior government figures, including the Vice President and some other government ministers. The rebellion is not yet able to lay their hands on the Central Police Station, as the police have an armory at their disposal, allowing them to resist the insurgency. A defense skirting is created at the place. Loyal elements of the police are ready to defend the Jawara regime.
I managed to call the police station. I remember somebody received the call and passed me to, it was Mas Jara, who was the deputy IGP, who received the call, and I told him I wanted to speak to the vice president. I wanted to let him know that Sadauda would urgently need for him to call back because the communication was incomplete, and that so Mas said hold on, and after a while Hassan Musa himself came on the line. I remember very well he spoke to me, and he called, as he always called me Demba. He said, Demba, this country, we are in trouble. It's a very serious situation.
Being able to resist the rebellion at the police headquarters, Hassan Musa Kamara, the vice president, is able to communicate with the outside world. Information about the coup has gone viral among the international community. By midday of 30th July 1981, the rebels start distributing arms to civilian supporters. Public order has broken down. Convicts in the Mile 2 prisons are released. Kukoi and his men have lost control over an atmosphere of disorderliness they had never estimated.
And hardcore criminals came out. Some of them laid their hands on these AK-47s. One of them stayed in our street where I was staying in Banjul, had been in prison for many times before. And on that particular day he was released, he picked up a gun and came back to home where he lives in Banjul, which is our street. That very night he kept us hostage because he found us sitting around discussing what was happening, and he said, no, this is my street and I'm armed. It's something in my memory that perhaps I could have died with.
While conflict is on the rise, looting, robbery, rape and killing by and among the rebels and civilians takes center stage. Shops run empty. The death toll increases as does sexual violence against women. Even at this early stage, the rebel group has begun to somewhat splinter, leading to the killing of the Gambia Revolutionary Socialist Party founder, Jibril George, at the depot. The Royal Victoria Teaching Hospital and the Medical Research Council are full to overflowing, treating patients while the Banjul mortuary receives dozens of dead bodies.
People are going into shops, cutting away, goods and merchandise, to their houses. New fridges, stand fans, ceiling fans, cooking machines, washing machines, vehicles, anything of value, was, cutting away by civilians into their various homes in Banjul. Now, as you can see here, even textile. Here's a looting scene, in Hagan Street in Banjul. Even textile shops, were attacked.
Nobody actually knew what was unfolding. So I strolled down to Independence Drive, and then I came from Wellesley. I came through Wellesley, and as you see, if you know Banjul, coming through Wellesley, what you face is the street where the mortuary is located. So I walked across the street, Independence Drive, and then I saw dead bodies. It dawned on me that something serious is happening.
105 hostages, including Lady Chilal Jawara and the children, are in the hands of the rebel at the Bakau depot. The young insurgents are now using mass communication at their disposal by forcing many Gambians and some Senegalese to take to the airwaves to denounce the Jawara administration. Gambia's High Commissioner to Senegal is also at the center of events as he tries to play the tool of diplomacy at his disposal. He is Bakary Bunjal Dabo. Invoking the 1965 Mutual Defense Pact between Senegal and the Gambia is one tool in his diplomatic armory. Only a neighboring country can help in such an emergency. The Defense Pact was signed with Senegal on the same day the Gambia gained independence from Britain. The rebellion comes as a surprise to Jawara, who believes democracy means security at home. Senegal President Abdou Diouf is contacted and convinced of the need for military intervention. Both head of state share the belief that the rebellion is externally motivated. Abdou Diouf therefore wastes no time in giving the green light to his military to intervene. Very swiftly, operational deployment by the Senegalese military command swings into gear.
The military needed that. They needed that kind of intelligence to know what kind of atmosphere they are going to send their troops. So I was there when Bayambeng came online on the radio line, and I could hear him speak very distressed. He was saying in French, "Il y a des morts, il y a des morts. There are dead people all over. The rebels, some of them are on drugs." He was saying that very strongly.
The insurgents are not happy with Senegal's intervention, and they demand the immediate withdrawal of Senegalese troops. They describe the military intervention by their neighbor as Senegalese meddling in Gambia's domestic affairs. Kukoi and his men called for the OAU and UN member states to condemn Senegal's military intervention. But Abdou Diouf, the president of Senegal, defends his action, saying the coup is a threat to his country's security. A shell-shocked Jawara lands in Dakar early in the morning of July 31st, 1981.
When the Senegalese were landing, the Senegalese troops were landing in Banjul to restore democratic order, Kukoi walked to Sirif Diba's house. Sirif Diba was then leader of the opposition, to ask for the number of Gaddafi. Kukoi told Sirif Diba, "I want Gaddafi's number because he promised me something and now it's time to get it because the Senegalese have invaded the Gambia."
The international community, most of whom are affiliates of Western-style democracies, condemned the coup in the strongest possible terms and promised support of the seemingly losing Jawara government.
I was called and taken to the presidency to be informed officially that the government of Senegal had decided to intervene and to intervene decisively because they were convinced by what we, the Gambian government, told them, and also based on other information, intelligence they had, that the incident was an externally inspired violent military action trying to topple the government.
Being threatened by Senegal's never-retreating troops, Kukoi Samba Sanyang, goes on Radio Gambia and threatens to execute 29 hostages, including all Jawara's 8 children and wife, and some members of his cabinet if the Senegalese troops do not withdraw. In his words, "I will kill everyone in the hospital and I will have no pity for Jawara and his family." The execution deadline passes without any further action from the council. The rebels again go on Radio Gambia to appeal to its suspected allies, Guinea-Conakry, Guinea-Bissau, and the USSR, to resist the Senegalese troops.
Whenever I remember that 81 coup with my kids, I have a baby who was about 2 months old. It was really a bad experience for the Jawara family.
President Jawara have requested Britain's help, and Gambia's former colonial master responded with caution by tapping in the intelligence of their Special Air Force Service Regiment known as the SAS. A detachment comprising 2 British military personnel, one in the person of the then Major Ian Crook and an unnamed sergeant, land in Dakar on the second day of the armed rebellion and find their way to the Gambia. These 2 British men are received by Mr. Clive Lee, a British former commando who had retired to the Gambia. Dressed in civilian clothing and with grenades, a pair of Heckler submachine guns, Browning high-power pistols at their disposal, they are ready to rescue Jawara's family and crush the coup. At the Medical Research Council, Jawara's family is carried from the depot where they have been detained on the eve of the coup, receiving treatment under the watchful eyes of the rebels. The SAS men disguise themselves as doctors and by soft words deceive the rebels into disarming themselves. Without a gunshot, they therefore cast their net onto the rebels and get Jawara's family and other hostages released.
There was just one man in the army, and he happened to be near a television cameraman at the time, and in no time at all, he just looked at us and he said, "No effing pictures." And that was that. It was clearly SAS men.
Lady Chilel, a senior wife of former President Sadada Kairaba Jawara, tell us her experience in the hands of the rebels. When the British SAS men arrive, they find the Senegalese paratroopers in action. They subsequently joined the professionally French-trained army to create a strong force to mob out the rebels. Having completed their mission, after Jawara's return to the Gambia onto the 4th day of the insurgency, they fly back to the United Kingdom. The 2 SAS men upon return at home nearly face being court-martialed for exceeding their order to observe and advise.
According to military sources, when Mrs. Thatcher heard about the SAS's role, she personally intervened. Instead of getting rid of them, she suggested that they should be decorated.
After 2 days of calamity in the Gambia, escorted by Senegalese security, President Jawara has flown back to the country to resume his seat of power. At home, the dust is yet to completely settle. On his arrival, Jawara holds a press conference in front of many journalists, including the international press. In this press conference, Jawara claims that he has evidence to show that those who have staged the coup got extensive training, arms and advice from outside countries. He calls for calm and promises victims' families of the coup a thorough investigation into the matter, after which culprits will be brought to book.
The next thing they did, was to apprehend anybody, who was carrying a gun. Okay? And this is a scene of, the Senegalese soldiers working together with the, remaining loyal, Gambian police officers. Arresting, alleged coupists. Okay? And like I said, 2,000 people were arrested in connection with the 1981 coup. So in fact, there was another commission, okay, which was, led by Alaji Syah Juf. I think that commission was basically to now go over, the list of these 2,000, arrested people, to make sure that nobody who was not guilty, remained in detention. Okay, so that also was a very, successful, enterprise.
The president also announces that he will set up a commission which will be in charge of recovery and control of looted items. When the commission swings into action, dramatic scenes unfold. Honesty is manifested by some Gambians who took part in the massive looting as they voluntarily show up and return looted items.
People will, carry like a whole fridge, and take it back into the commission and say, I took this, and I'm very sorry.
There are mass arrests of suspects by the police with the assistance of Senegalese forces still on the ground. While the rebels are being mopped up, Kukoi Sanyang, under military pressure, runs for his life on the 4th of August 1981. He flees the country through Senegal-Casamance border and finally makes his way to Guinea-Bissau. In Senegal, some rebels are captured by the Senegalese security and handed back to the Gambian police for trial. The insurgency leaves several wounded, and an estimated figure of over 1,000 deaths is recorded by Amnesty International.
Hundreds of bodies, corpses, were rotting, in the streets of Banjul and Serekunda and environs.
Countries abroad promise Gambia relief assistance, while rescue operations of casualties are on within the country. Hospitals are full, and the first aiders are in action, risking their lives to the terror.
As the amount of people arrested increase, okay, the government had to create new detention centers like at the Kukoi primary school, and here also the Red Cross were allowed to come and to offer their services, particularly to facilitate family contact between the detainees, okay, and their families.
Gambians at home and abroad give aid either in cash or in kind to support victims and their families. On Thursday, the 13th of August, the West German government announces that it is giving £22,220 plus ambulances, food, and sending technical advisors.
I spent a lot of time, for instance, going to the military airfield in Wakam to receive flights bringing wounded people, from even dead people, and attend to them. Where there are dead people, to also represent the Gambia, to present condolences to their families once they are identified.
4 days after Kukoi Sanyang fled the country to Guinea-Bissau, according to a Bissau delegation to Banjul on the 29th of August 1981, 9 rebels, including their leader, are under custody of the Bissau authority, and they promise to hand them over to government of the Gambia. The promise is never fulfilled.
By the end of August, almost 2,000 Gambians had been detained. In fact, Mile 2 was full. The prison in Georgetown was full. The Josong prison was full. So they had to use Kukoi Primary School as a new detention center, and the Birkama, and also, to use a facility in Birkama as another detention center.
Following the aftermath of the short but bitter first-time experience of a coup in the Gambia, Yundum Airport, which was shut in the wake of the coup, is declared open for business on Monday 10th of August 1981. Less than 2 months after the coup in 1981, Danso, who shot and killed the Field Force Commander Eko Mahoney in 1980, was found guilty and sentenced to death and executed, marking the first time since independence that an execution was carried out in the Gambia. 6 months after a narrow escape from the abortive coup of 1981, Senegal and the Gambia formed a loose confederation. Among the motivation of the confederation was to foster cooperation between the Gambia and Senegal, in which security and defense of their people in the wake of aggression is paramount. On the 12th of November 1982, the agreement is signed by Sadada Kereba Jawara and the President of Senegal, Abdou Diouf.
We have photos here in the museum, showing the signing of the Confederal Agreement at COUP.
While the government and its supporters defended the move, the Confederation is criticized by some Gambians, particularly among the educated elite.
It saved him, but for a while, because the conditions under which he came together with Senegal included, he said that at some point he should be the head of the Confederation. When Abdou Diouf was the head since the beginning, then so all of a sudden Jawara said he also has to, it should be, in turn. And that is what brought the division.
Before 1984, Gambia didn't have an army, but a field force, a paramilitary wing of the police. It composed of about 500 men whose competence to handle defense and security in the country was poor, as events showed. From 1981 to 1984, Jawara's security was in the hands of the Senegalese force of the gendarmerie.
After the Kukoi incident, we had to draw lessons from that experience. And one of the weaknesses we found was that the Gambia as a state had very weak security institutions, because apart from the main police, we only had a paramilitary unit called the field force, which was in terms of capacity very, very weak. Not only weak capacity, but discipline was bad. So really, for a country to rely on that for its security, we found out was not good.
The Senegambia Confederation, formed in the wake of the abortive coup, was headed by Senegal President Abdou Diouf. The presidency was not rotational. The romantic relationship between the Gambia and Senegal, bound by the Confederation, wouldn't even last a decade. On the 30th of September 1989, Senegal's government, without consultation with its Gambian counterpart, announced unceremoniously their withdrawal from the Confederation. The two-state confederation is thus completely dissolved by Senegal's decision to withdraw.
So he started giving his back to the Gambian security and mortgaging our future to the Senegalese security for his own personal safety. Or not for the country's personal safety, but for his own personal safety. And that saved him. It saved him, but for a while, because the conditions under which he came together with Senegal included, he said that at some point he should be the head of the Confederation. When Abdou Diouf was the head since the beginning, then so all of a sudden Jawara said he also has to, it should be, in turn. And that is what brought the division.
Gambia is now left alone to manage with its own security constraints. A security vacuum is left amidst withdrawal of the Senegalese gendarme from the Gambia. Another coup attempt is brewing by other military men who seem to have learned lessons from the abortive 1981 coup. Years later, nepotism, corruption, and so on are again part of the everyday vocabulary of a military council which would successfully topple President Jawara's long-time rule. One Gambia, one people, one nation is the slogan for a Gambia which claims to be still new since independence. The country is moving forward and positive change is needed, but change can only come when Gambians learn from history and do not allow themselves to be trapped in the negative experiences of the past.